Hello, everyone. This is Ed Jarecki here with the Elevate Your Business video podcast. And today I've got with me Anhtuan D, who has an incredible story, an incredible journey that he's been through. And so let's welcome him to the show so that he can share a little bit about his journey.
Thank
And
you. Hey Ed, how are you?
good. You have had an amazing journey. You mind sharing a little bit of that with our audience?
Yeah, of course. But first, let me thank you for letting me be on your show. And I think it's super cool, kind of like the whole premise behind it. It's really just about helping other folks achieve their goals, and whether it's business or success, it's all looped up into that. And I appreciate the opportunity.
My honor. And
Thank
Anhtuan, with everything that you've overcome in life,
you.
here to support you. I'm here to do that.
Yeah. Thank you. Well, so Ed, you mentioned it a little bit, and I tell people openly about this. Well, first I'll just kind of talk professionally. I think most people would look on the outside at my career trajectory and think or thought that this is a super happy, successful guy, right? I went to Notre Dame. I started out in consulting, did a stint at Deloitte. I worked in an oil and gas company that grew from like near bankruptcy into the Fortune 500 over like 13 years. I did a little startup. Now I'm in a wonderful startup running tech. Outside looking in, like a picturesque life. And what nobody knew, and as I started to share the story, it was kind of a shock to everybody because it just was not the facade that I had in front. It was that I dealt with a suicidal nature from the age of 12, right? That was the first time. I'm sure I had thought about it before, but that was the first time that I had plans to actually go and do it. And I didn't know that that wasn't a thought that came across people's mind, much less obsessed, and was like just something that people thought about all the time and wanted to do all the time because I was 12. And at the age of 42 was another January of 2023 was 42, another very, very difficult part of my life. And uh, basically was going to do it. And my kids, I have four kids, and I couldn't leave that with them. And so I finally got help, and I did about 400 hours of therapy in 10 weeks. And after that, yeah, writing just like spilled out. Like, no joke. It was like I've never written creatively. But over the next like 4 or 5 months, I wrote four screenplays. Again, never written, didn't even know anything. There's a book out now as well. And now just kind of in the process of figuring out how that works, how that industry works, the business works, and refining the work itself, right? It started out, they were not good and just like kept working on them. And now it's just figuring out what the next steps are there. But also now talking about it. Because as I've shared my story, I found that a lot of people, more than you would think, struggle with this or have personal relationships with folks that have. But even more so than that, like we all live such a crazy, stressful life. And sometimes we just don't know that there are other ways to kind of like live, even if it's just a little bit better every day, right? So that's what I'm trying to do, and I hope that it helps people.
No, I appreciate it so much. And just kind of reinforce the point. We all face demons. It's how
Mhm.
to deal with those demons. And I know of a few people who have faced the same demons, and several of them are still struggling with that. So what you've been able to do and overcome, and you've poured your heart and soul into the writing, the screenplays, etc. So it sounds like it's really been an incredible opportunity, a new focus in an area of passion and inspiration that has really started to kind of guide you in your life forward. Is that a fair way to express that?
Absolutely. No question. It is as much continual therapeutic like work as much as it is just pure fun. But that doesn't mean that there's not a lot of work behind it, right? It's an industry just like anything else. It may be one of the hardest industries to break into. And that's what I'm doing right now. And we'll get into a little bit and just taking it day by day, but it is absolutely one of those things where it fulfills so many different things.
So many people that I know, and I am no medical expert or psychologist or anything, but just from observation and experience, we go through these traumatic periods of our life, and in some cases, incredibly long periods of our life. And what seems to really help people overcome once they're ready to do that is finding another passion, finding another outlet to focus those energies and to develop more passion around. And I can imagine that helps overcome that imbalance of negative thoughts, focusing on the positive that you've created for yourself.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's one of those things where not only does it, I don't want to use the word distract because that's a temporary thing. It gives me purpose. It brings me so much joy, even though if I sit today, let's just talk about the first screenplay. It exists, it's placed in a bunch of competitions. It's still just words on a page, and it's not a film yet. But I love it. I get excited when it places. I talk to people constantly about it. I meet people in the industry now who are like, could help me get on the path to that. And it's just an incredible sort of thing. And so even though it's not a film today, when I talk to a producer or a director, whomever it is, I get so much joy from the fact that I did it, right? It's an accomplishment. I still got to do stuff. I still got to figure out how to turn it into a reality. But that's okay, right? It's all part of the process.
Yeah, and it sounds like you're building an incredible support group around you to really help you on that road to success. So absolutely outstanding. And so when you think
Yeah.
about that success, how do you define it today?
So if I could, I will go back a little bit because it is very different than it was even like 3 or 4 years ago, right? So the first 20 years of my career, I defined success by mainly two things: upward trajectory in the company. Am I getting promoted fast enough? And am I getting paid enough?
Yep.
Those were like my definition of a success in life, even, right? Because those two also come with a notoriety in a sense and an ability to provide. And that's what I define as success. Today, it's very different. And it's kind of interesting because those other things continue to happen, but it's not like I don't stress about them anymore. I don't live in them. They continue to have, but what I define success now mostly is a couple of things. One, I still do the goal route and I set pretty far reaching goals. Making a film, it's a far reaching goal and it's a target. And I know that it's also a difficult target. And I do this with my day job too. But it gives me a direction to point towards. And my definition of success is, did I make progress towards that today? Right. And sometimes I can't, and that's okay. And I just kind of look back and just like understand why. And then I try and do better towards it tomorrow. There's this, I've got the goal, I'm moving towards it, I'm accomplishing steps towards it because I don't want to let it to the wayside. That's how I'm going to not be successful at it. And then I just do everything possible to do it. And if the more I fail at it, because I've gotten a lot of no's clearly on like how to make this, it's better because what happens is now I know I don't have to spend my time with that person anymore. Right. They are not involved. They are not resonating. They don't like it. Okay, great. That's not a story that you want to make with me. Let's go on to the next one. And so for me, success is just moving forward every day, looking back also to be proud of myself of what I've done, and then figuring out, okay, what are the next right steps tomorrow, knowing that I've got this long-term objective out there.
Actually aligns with something you said earlier, and as part of one of my key messages, small incremental steps every day equal large improvements over time.
Yeah.
So that's really what you're saying. And it's completely okay to learn through that process and to learn through failures. That as we go out there and we market and we prospect and stuff like that, I look at some of the responses and just how nasty some people can be in their commentary. And
Yeah.
you kind of get it. You kind of like, you could have been a little more polite. And it does get, it really does. But you got to get past that to focus on the positives out there. Because if within each one of us, if we're truly trying to do something better, and especially where we're trying to improve and help humanity, focus on that. Don't focus on these. I got some words out there, but I'll just be nice and say people that don't agree with us.
Right.
Don't worry about them because they're always going to be there. If we're trying to push forward, we're going to face adversary. There is just
Oh,
no two ways about it.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, you said it, right? Like, I think one of the biggest challenges I had was, like I said, I've never written anything creatively at all, much less a screenplay. And I just saw a scene one night and I just felt compelled to write it down. And over the next 14 days, I had like this first script. And my coworker, she had a friend who writes horror movies, like B-level horror movies. And so I asked if he would read it. And I sent him the script. And the email response was, "This is literally the worst screenplay I've ever read." You are never going to get accepted to a screenplay competition, right? And a previous version of me would have just been like, "You're right. I'm the worst writer ever. I'm just going to put it down." But I had just finished this intense amount of internal work. So the first time in my life where I was, no, I know the story is good. Why, why are you saying that? And he ended up helping me out. He rewrote a scene. He suggested and so the guy wanted to help, but to your point, probably could have said it in a different way. But from those two items, I went back and wrote another draft and another draft. That script now, I'm working on the 30th draft because remember, I am still learning this craft. Most screenwriters are at some point in time move on to the next project and try and do that. But I've got to do catch up. So
Yeah.
yeah, I keep going on it. And now, like I said, it's placed in 20, 30 competitions.
Yeah.
So
You're getting the advanced degree through the School of Hard Knocks. Absolutely.
exactly. Yeah. It's funny because now I've met a bunch of people in the industry now, and they're saying, well, the way you talk and the way that you've crafted these stories, you should really consider directing them yourself. And I'm like, oh, that is like, talk about a whole new thing I've got to learn. Yeah, and at first it's, oh, I just want to be a writer. And now as I'm understanding the industry, I understand why. Because if you don't, you lose. You are no longer the shepherd of the story as a director takes it over. The director is. And so now I find myself like, okay, I don't know how to create shots in a movie. We all watch them, but we don't like sit and just watch how shots are made and sequences are made. And so I've been watching films on mute and no dialogue, and I'm just trying to see scenes built out, talking to people about camera setups and things like that as I meet them and be like, okay, what are they doing here in the back end? Trying to get on set somewhere.
I think what you're doing is absolutely incredible. And we talk quite a bit about some of the challenges. And what I take from that is tremendous amount of perseverance. Take the bad for the good that can come out of it. Just take it at face value and live with it.
Yeah.
And in some cases, it does mean and I'll go back and one of my dear friends remove the toxins. If they're not
Mhm.
going to help, if that person would not have been willing to help after the derogatory comments, and it sounds like what he said had real merit, approach this can be just as fruitful, if not more so. But
Right.
anxiety and the strength that you've developed helped you overcome that. And now you're on that 30th version. You've won a bunch of awards for the script itself. I applaud all of that. When you
Thank you.
consider your next steps and you consider all this innovation, how are you leveraging all the innovation out there to help drive you forward?
Yeah. So me coming from a tech background, originally, AI is the big word. And so I've taken a pivot off of the feature films. I'm trying to make a short film right now. And I'm going to learn a lot from that, right? It's a lot lower budget. I can experiment with a lot of things. So I wrote a short script, a 15, 20 minute. And I'm talking with a production company right now, and they're asking me these questions. And they're like, have you done your storyboards and things like that? I'm like, I don't want to go hire an artist and I don't have that kind of money. And so I'm actually playing around with Chat GPT and like all of the AIs and say, okay, what if I just really describe the scene and I can get images built up of what I see in my head? And I still want to shoot it. I still want to have actors. But for me to communicate that to production companies when I don't know, 70% of the language and I don't know the tools that they use, I have to be resourceful. And I know AI is about to flip the world or is already flipping the world upside down.
That's
So how do I use that? And so that's what I'm doing. Like literally last night after work, the kids are with my ex. And so that's what I do in my own time when I work on this stuff. I'm like, is this helping me progress this? Because again, I thoroughly enjoy it. So I sat there and I'm like, okay, here's the scene. And I'm like, I type out a prompt and it comes up and it's not exact. So then I follow a prompt. So right now that's what I'm doing is I'm building out this shot sequence, shot list where I talk about where in the script it's going to be, what's going to happen in the sound using AI, and it's all free. So all it takes is my time and my grit and learning it.
and
And
you're
I know that there are other applications
Yeah,
for
you're
it.
still the architect through all of this. So all
Right.
you're using AI, it's to inform you and help educate you practices. And oh, by the way, deep research as part of these may help as well because they're going to go a lot deeper and get much deeper and more accurate information, pull that forward. So
For sure. And it is because I have since found a couple of partners who come from tech and finance. Because one of the things that I've noticed is there's a lot of opportunities in the entertainment world, especially because the industry itself is in flux, where we think we could use a lot of AI, not from to your point, like the architect creative side, but from an efficiency scale. Like there's a whole bunch of things that I think they're open for us to look at. So we are actually using a lot of that right now, and we are putting together a little startup on the financing side of filming that I think could make a small change, at least for a small chunk of it. This is the cool thing about coming up in tech and kind of being in a lot of startups and just kind of being always having the question of like, how do we do X better? And now as I'm meeting people in this industry, it's like, oh, that could be a little better here. This could be a little better there. And you start grouping all these things, and it's like, oh, that's a substantial kind of efficiency. So we'll see. Who knows?
no, it sounds like you've got a journey in front of you, and we're going to have to catch up again at some point. And if you
Absolutely.
share with the world where you're at as you continue
Yeah,
in this path, absolutely wonderful.
for
Final
sure.
takeaway for our audience, if there's one thing that you would share with them to say you really must consider this as part of your life and business success, what would that be?
You know, I think about this a lot, not in that specific kind of question, but just like success of life. And I think if you do that and you apply the same, go after what you feel passionate and purposeful about. And I don't say that in a sense of like, it doesn't always have to be in what's greatest for humanity. It's like, what do you feel like it's right to do in your job today? Like getting this task list done, go with what that is and then shoot for the stars with that. But if you don't get it right when you expect or wanted to get it, don't beat yourself up for it either. Learn from the situation. You're going to feel a little bit of disappointment or sadness or whatever. Feel it for a little bit, move past it, let it go, and then just look back on it as how do I use that as a learning? Learning's good, right? Learning is incredible. It's going to help you do things better in the future. So it's like this constant, okay, keep moving forward, keep trying your best, striving. And if it doesn't go as you really expected, that's okay, right? Feel what you got to feel, look at what you could have done better, and then use that in the future. And that's what I try and do in all aspects: personal life, relationships, business, work, this movie stuff, the book. That's basically how I try to do everything. And that's worked for me. And I think that that could work for a lot of people too. At least I would hope it would.
I think that's absolutely outstanding. And bring that down to just a couple of words, continuous learning and keep moving forward.
There you go. That I love it.
Outstanding. Well, everyone, Anhtuan Do has had an amazing journey, and there's really some very key lessons to learn through this. Perseverance and overcoming extreme obstacles within your life. And to help with that, focusing on your passion, your dream, and following that, helping that help you through those obstacles to get to that next level to empower your future. I want to thank you all for being here today. I wish you all a great week. Stay resilient and stay innovative.
Thanks again, Ed.